Stop! Before you consider taking drastic measures to lose weight, like GLP-1 injections, consider Golo. Golo's release is easier than injections and fad diets. No need to jump through insurance hoops. It's simple. You take one release supplement with each meal. Golo's release supplement contains 7 natural plants and 3 key minerals that target body fat and combat the stress of dieting. With Golo, you follow the Golo for Life plan, where you'll safely and effectively control sugar cravings and hunger while minimizing muscle loss, allowing you to feel good and inspired to reach your goal weight. With Golo, you get an effective and affordable weight loss solution that's clinically proven, because controlling glucose, maintaining healthy insulin levels, and saying goodbye to starvation dieting is the secret to lasting weight loss and wellness. Visit Golo.com to get started today. That's Golo.com. Go to Golo.com to join the 5 million people who have switched to Golo as a better way to lose weight. Visit Golo.com today.
For the farming community across the Northwest, it feels like second verse, same as the first, as the Snake River dams are once again in the crosshairs of groups, organizations, and politicians that would like to see them removed. I recently had a chance to sit down with Michelle Hennings, Executive Director of the Association of Washington Wheat Growers, to talk about these increased efforts and what the dams mean to the local wheat community.
We have a lot going on when it comes to our transportation in the Snake River dams. Currently, our transportation is a very concerning issue and has been for a few years now, but we have been working on this heavily. Currently, Washington State's conducting studies on our infrastructure if we were to remove the 4 lower Snake River dams. We are currently serving on 2 advisory committees, the WSDOT committee and the River Transportation Work Group through the State Joint Transportation Committee. I can't express how much it is vital that the stakeholders get involved, and if you are contacted for an interview, to make sure that you participate. The worry is on our end is what's going to slip through the cracks on our transportation system, because it's unique and it works as well as keeping costs competitive for farmers along with being reliable to our overseas customers. Here again, you have a cost that will double for farmers on the transportation side of things. We have recently been working nationally, WAG has, to educate Congress and committee staff that are the decision makers when it comes to removal. Recently, I led a Midwest tour with the PNW river system leaders to the Midwest to foster relationships along with the Mississippi and tour their system. The trip went really well, and the systems are working to unite and educate and advocate on the importance of our river system as a whole for the U.S. So this is a positive. It's important to show the system in person, and you know that. We had our first tour last year, and they really expressed it was valuable to understand and see that, and not just read about it. So we're really looking forward to that part of it as well. We are really working with the state, and we're working nationally to make sure that we can keep our river system in place. There's also, I could go on, Glenn. We have a Columbia River Treaty also. I'm sure you've heard of that. The treaty is critical for ag, especially, Washington wheat farmers who rely on the transportation and irrigation benefits of the river. Thriving family-owned farms are the linchpin for rural economies, and while we appreciate this important first step that they, have kind of come to the table and come to a negotiation, we encourage swift, thoughtful, and science-based negotiations moving forward to ensure an agreement that reflects and modernizes the system, serves stakeholders across the board, including our farmers. The treaty is really, really important that we make sure that we can transport our commodities. As you know, 90% of our wheat is exported, and we need all 3 modes of transportation.
Michelle, are other dams or other waterways across the U.S. targets of breaching efforts like what we see for the Snake River dams?
This is very unique to the Northwest. We have the conflict of, salmon survival. But, us as stakeholders want to come together with all the stakeholders and come to find a solution that's not going to put one stakeholder in a negative position over another. When we visited the, Mississippi, they have some issues there. They have different issues. But, their working river is slightly different from ours. And it's just important that we get together as the United States river system and advocate for each other. They understand the importance of our system as well. We do have corn and soy that comes from the Midwest through our system. And it's vital that we keep our system in place and find solutions. That's why we like to take tours of the dam. You don't realize, some sit there and read about it, and then they come up with their own, their own opinion. But until you actually see the technology that we have at the dam, I think it's really eye-opening for those people, and they don't realize what is there and what we have, especially for energy too. It's not just transportation. We have the energy and irrigation and transportation and recreation side of it, and what that does to the local economies. Down in the Port of Lewiston, Glenn, that port will be gone if we lose those dams. And what would that do to that economy down there? It would be absolutely terrible. And the rural economies especially, that is just going to have a terrible effect. And I just worry, when we do these studies that they're doing, that some of those numbers and some of the effects will slip through the cracks. So we're really trying to be proactive and stay on top of it and make sure that, everything is included that needs to be.
So how would you describe the reception in either DC or Olympia when you try to make your case about why the dams need to stay?
Well, I want to express that this is important. It's a bipartisan effort. So we have support from both sides of the aisle. We also have some that are on the fence about it. So congressionally, I feel there is a lot of support. It's very frustrating. It comes down to education, and it's working together, trying to get our groups all together and come up with solutions that isn't going to negatively harm any stakeholder. And that's where there's a lot of funding available for projects that need to be done. The dams aren't the silver bullet. It comes down to, there's ocean conditions, there's culverts, there's other factors that factor into potential salmon decline. Now, there are good salmon numbers that go over or through the dams. So it's just, we need to make sure that we communicate, stay in communication, and work together on this.
So, Michelle, the big question a lot of listeners have is, what can growers do to help? How can they get out there and work to save those dams?
Yes, they need to tell their story. They need to tell their bottom line. They need to tell how it will negatively affect their farming business. As a small farmer myself, I can't afford for my transportation costs to go up, especially with the wheat price the way it is. We need that reliability. We need to be able to get our wheat to market. And so it's vital that when they need to tell their story. And I feel that they are starting to do that better. They're seeing what's coming down. And so I've seen farmers, willing to tell their story. We have, this transportation study happening. People will reach out to them, and it's now is the time that they advocate for themselves. And so I just, I really express it's vital that they do this because, especially the legislators and congressional delegation, they want to hear from the farmer. They want to hear, how this affects them. And so that is very important that they move forward with that.
Once again, that was Michelle Hennings, Executive Director of the Association of Washington Wheat Growers.